Caitlin, what were you saying?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg is out of the hospital and doing fine.
Yay!
We can't lose her this year. The country can't take it.
No.
Emotionally, and just like we need her in the Supreme Court. We can't.
I love you. I love your heart.
So wearing a mask is serious. And I'm kind of, like a certain person is holding rallies. I think yesterday he held one inside. No one wore a mask. And I've become the type of person where I hope they all get it and die. I'm sorry, but I am so frustrated and just, I don't know what else to do. You can't argue with them. You can't talk sense into them. I said to somebody yesterday, I hope they all die before the election. That's the only saving hope I have right now. Definitely bootlickers. Anyhow, okay, I'm going to stop talking about politics because I really should not be talking.
Our reproductive rights are on the line. Our labor rights are on the line. Our right to health care is on the line. Labor and union protections are on the line. Our climate is on the line. With an early appointment, all of our rights, the rights that so many people died for, voting rights, reproductive rights, healthcare rights, all of those rights are at risk with this appointment.
People are already voting. It's just a few days away. I quoted Mitch McConnell, what he said 4 years ago, when Merrick Garland was nominated, that it should be, when you're close to an election, the next president should decide. We're not close to an election, we're in an election. And to try and decide this at this last time, at this late moment, is despicable and wrong and against democracy. It's shoving the wishes of the hard right and the Republicans who go along with them down America's throat.
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died Friday, and the nation suffered one more loss in a year replete with them. The tiny woman with towering intellect and historic stature was a women's rights pioneer. Justice Ginsburg earned the respect and affection of some of the Supreme Court's most conservative members. "We were best buddies," she said of her fellow opera fan, the late Justice Antonin Scalia. Ideological differences never got in the way of their mutual admiration. This election season, there will be endless arguments over replacing the relentlessly liberal justice. But tonight, we remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg's civility and her respect and love of.
We are here tonight to mourn Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was an icon. She was a trailblazer. She was a role model. But you know what I love best about Ruthie? She was a fighter.
When an icon passes, we mourn her, and we mourn with her family and those who loved her, and we honor her life. But we also recognize that her legacy is only beginning.
We are here tonight to grieve, but not to despair. There is too much at stake going forward. Roe versus Wade, the Dreamers, health care for millions of Americans. Our very democracy is on the line. 4 years ago, Mitch McConnell told us that there would be no vote in the United States Senate on a Supreme Court nominee because our president had only 1 year in office.
Are we going to allow Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump to decide who sits in Justice Ginsburg's seat?
Mitch McConnell believes that this fight is over. What Mitch McConnell does not understand is this fight has just begun.
As you all learned, as I did on this flight, some very sad news. Close that door. Thank you. We learned of the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was not only a giant in the legal profession, but a beloved figure. And my heart goes out to all those who cared for her and care about her. And she practiced the highest American ideals as a justice, equality and justice under the law. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg stood for all of us. As I said, she was a beloved figure. As a young attorney, you all know the story. She persisted, overcoming a lot of obstacles for a woman in practicing law in those days, as well as she continued until she moved herself in a position where she could end up changing the law of the land, or leading the effort to provide equality for women in every field. And she led in the advance of equal rights for women. It's hard to believe, but it was my honor to preside over her confirmation hearing. I got to meet her at the time, and she and her ascension to the Supreme Court. In the decades since, she has been absolutely consistent and reliable, and a voice for freedom and opportunity for everyone. And she never failed. She was fierce and unflinching in her pursuit of the civil and legal rights of civil rights of everyone. Her opinions and her dissent are going to continue to shape the basis for a law for a generation. And tonight and in the coming days, we should focus on the loss of the justice and her enduring legacy. But there is no doubt, let me be clear, that the voters should pick the president, and the president should pick the justice for the Senate to consider. This was the position of the Republican Senate took in 2016, when there were almost 10 months to go before the election. That's the position the United States Senate must take today, and the election is only 46 days off. I think the fastest justice ever confirmed was 47 days, and the average is closer to 70 days. And so we should do this with full consideration, and that is my hope and expectation what will happen. Thank you all, and I'm sorry we had to learn it on the plane ride, but Thank you very much.
How did you find out about her death tonight? Would you change your position on adding more justices to the court, sir? You mentioned.
That's you, Sonny.
Yeah, that makes three of us then that cried, because I did too. I had the pleasure of honoring her last year and reading some of the lines in her and words in her decisions. And one of the decisions that we read to her was in the Lilly Ledbetter case, and it was actually her scathing dissent that was very, very important, that led to sort of this equal pay for women. And in that dissent, she wrote, "The court does not comprehend the insidious way that women can be victims to discrimination." And at that time when she wrote it, she was the only woman sitting on the court. Can you imagine? The only woman sitting on the court, and her dissent actually led President Obama to enact the Lilly Ledbetter Act, which, led to women at least getting equal pay to some extent. And so I just thought in meeting her, and as Sarah mentioned, she's this tiny, tiny woman with great style. And she's about I think she was shorter than 4'11". And what I was fond of when I met her, she had these little heels on, these little tiny heels. And she also, Joy, stood the entire time. And I couldn't imagine that she kept on standing the whole time when we were chatting. And she asked me, "What law school did you go to?" And I told her I had gone to Notre Dame. She talked about her visit to Notre Dame and knew everything about the school. So she was just so sharp and so wanted to connect with me and with people in general, I think, that I was struck by her kindness as a Supreme Court justice, that she seemed to really care about people. And that comes across in her opinions and in her work and in her legacy. So I just think we lost such a true champion of civil rights.
Right.
Over the...
I said this: Hitler condoned the killing of at least 6 million. Ginsburg, 60 million. Do you mourn Hitler's death? Who's more wicked? If it wasn't a tragedy that Hitler died, why is it a tragedy that she died? Can somebody explain that to me, please?